biggest ideas are often the ones that seem crazy at first. In fact, that was what Bernard Tansey, co owner of Clinic in Santa Clara, California, thought when his wife Michelle first suggested he open his own automotive repair shop. Then Michelle got another crazy idea: focus only on European luxury models. This duo is a shining example of what partnership in this industry should look like, and now they're banging the drum of aftermarket awareness, both in Silicon Valley as well as the whole auto care industry. Can you guys tell me about how you got started in the industry? Do you guys have family ties to it, or did you just jump on in?
I started my career as an automotive technician. So right after high school, I moved out of state to a tech school, came back, and I was working at dealerships. Fast forward, we're about 20, 22 years in now. I started at a certain dealership, and it just so happens that Michelle was working there. Not only did I like the dealership, I really liked the scenery, so to speak. And I convinced her after a while to go to lunch with me. And as they say, the rest is rock and roll history. She, after getting married and starting our life, and she saw what I was doing and how unsatisfied I was, because I wanted to get higher and higher, being the shop foreman, running the shop. Basically, the only thing left for me was to put on a suit and be a manager, and that just wasn't my gig.
It's funny because it's kind of what you do.
That's kind of what I do now. So funny how that works out. But she had this really weird off the wall idea about opening my own shop. And I said, no, that's just crazy talk. That's insane. You just don't open up a shop, And she came home one day with a business license and said, well, do it anyway. So ended up with a very, very small shop that I was working at nights and weekends while still working at the dealer during the day, because stopping your day job is absolutely scary. And eventually it got to the point where that night gig that I was doing, it was actually producing just as much as I was during the day. So we said, all right, I think it's time to say goodbye to the dealership world, move my toolbox 100% into my new shop and go for it. And then, what was it, maybe about a year and a half later, Michelle was kind of running everything on the back end. She started saying, like, I think you've really got something here. And I just thought, okay, I work on cars and there's money in the bank. I didn't see the business side of it. I knew it as a technician side. And so she starts looking at some stuff and crunching some numbers, and she says, you need to hire a tech. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, I'm going to have employees? Like that's crazy again. And someone's financial responsibility is now my responsibility. And it's tough to think that way and like, what are we actually doing here? And so we hired a technician, and then we got busier, had to move into a bigger location. We ended up hiring a business CSR.
Not a business CSR, just a CSR.
No, basically that's what that was, right? Yeah. So
Like a front counter.
Yeah, front counter assistant. And she came in and just saw how much it started taking off from there. And
I like to think, I always say when people ask how we got started, right? When I met B, I was 22 and I was working at the service department, which is for me a full circle. We worked at a Volkswagen dealer and we own a European auto repair shop, and we started working on Volkswagens. So it became a full circle for us. But I like to think we founded the company underneath the carport of our first apartment after we got married. And it was more of a side hustle for B. I was going to school. I was in law enforcement. That was my job before I came full-time from the shop. And B was losing passion on what he was doing. He always said, I turned my hobby into a career. And I love working on cars, but I'm not having fun anymore. And he kept just he was a complainer, right? Like he kept complaining. And I'm just like, well, why don't you just open up your own shop? And it's becoming our like inside joke now, because every time I have like these big ideas of what we want to do, he tells me I'm crazy, and I'm like, just remember what happens last time he told me I was crazy, right? And I'm not going to take any credit because he was the one doing all the labor, right? He was working. I just had an idea, and it was supposed to just kind of be something for him. kind of like do it on the side, do it on the weekends, kind of like what kids are doing now, like side hustles, I guess. And it turned out to be, he started like making, okay, like 10 grand or so, like on the side. And I was like, okay, well, this is nice. I mean, it's taking a lot of his time, but okay, I mean, he's netting that. That's pretty cool. Then one of his buddies like branched out, a buddy of a buddy branched out, a BMW shop. He rented a lift from them. It was like a 3-day shop and he rented a lift. At one point, V was doing more out of one lift than the shop was doing out of those 3 lifts. And that's when I told him, hey, listen, I think you got something here. And he's like, I can't quit my job. Our daughter was like 12 at the time. And, you know, I had a good job. And of course, I'm like, okay, well, let's start doing some research. And I'm like, let's look at the bank where nobody wants to give kids loans. You know, at that point, I'm 25 and B's like 31. And we don't know anything about business. Nobody's gonna give you money for this. So he did that for like about another year. He started doing about like 50 to 30 grand on his own. And then I just told him, B, like, at this point, your day job's getting in the way and you're not happy. If you're down, like I'm down too, like, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? I have a degree, I can always get a job, and he's really well known in the dealerships. You can always get a job too. So we did what people should, don't do this at home kind of thing, right? Like, I cashed out my pension, lost thousands of dollars. B cashed out his 401k just so that we can get lists, put down the deposit in the space. And thank God it worked out for us because we were able to pay for college. It would have sucked. But we moved into a big space. I remember writing a $20-something thousand check and our hands were shaking for the lifts. And now we write those checks for parts, right? For cost of goods. So it's like not a big deal. But to touch a little bit on B's part of stuff, right? I think what we're living now is something that we never thought it could happen, right? Like just some kids with an idea for, as a side hustle, became a $3 million business. We paid over $1 million payroll wages last year. It's insane to think. And even in this new space that we moved into, like we have potential to do about $6 million out of this building. And there's the growth and scalability is crazy, right? We went through a rebranding, through a bunch of stuff, and
Restaffing.
And I'm not gonna take credit on that. You know, we did it all the right things, I think. You know, we attended auto repair conferences. I attended network groups, made a lot of good connections, a lot of great friends. Got into coaching, figuring out all the stuff that we don't know what to do. So if there's shop owners out there that are starting out, listening, or any advice that we can offer is like, read, learn anything, talk to anybody that you possibly can, get as much as information possible.
Yeah, that's all fantastic. And there's a few things I want to unpack from all that. The first thing I wanted to ask you guys is you have a focus on kind of luxury European models, correct? Yeah. What prompted you guys to make that your specific focus?
I think, his big skill set was Volkswagen and Audi. So VAC products was majority of his skill set when he was at the dealership. So when we branched out on our own, we were exclusively just doing Volkswagen and Audi. Once we were doing that for like a good 5 years, I started looking at me and saying, hey, there's like, we're running penetration reports, and I'm like, hey, there's like 500 BMWs just in our zip code. I'm not even saying like miles away, just in our zip code. There's 300 Mercedes. There's like Land Rovers. Like, why not go all Euro? And of course, first question B says, you're crazy. Why are we? And we're in the Bay Area, but we're very well centered right in the center of Santa Valley, right? So heavy metropolitan area, very techy. So I told him there's so much more potential in what we can do, right? From scalability wise, there was so much more than what we knew. And I told him, you know, I'm not going to just go into rebranding and changing and doing what we're going to do without doing research. So of course, you know, we really dived into the penetration report, and there was endless possibilities. Like his least favorite brand was BMW. And it's the majority of cars in our zip code. So it would be like dumb for us to not go after that, right? And then for me too, a lot of the niches that the dealers don't offer, right? Like we wanted to make sure, I wanted to create an experience. People come in here and they buy parts and labor and they know, right? They really come for an oil change or a service or a problem. And nobody wants to deal with that, but I wanted to create a space where it was more than just that. It's an experience, and I wanted to sell speed and convenience. And the only way you could do that is luxury says that, right? I always compare it to, I have certain expectations if I walk into Target, but it's a different expectation if I go to Nordstrom's. And there's going to be two different levels of service, right? So like that's what prompted me. It's my demographics, my avatar clientele, when we really decided like, what is our ideal client? Like what does that look like? And then we did reverse numbers and all of our ideas. So we basically picked our ideal client and then built the company around that. It was very hard. It's very hard because you become picky, right? And then you slow down and card count slows down. And but we said, hey, if we stick to it, not everybody, we're not meant for everybody either, right? But I mean, we just landed, we have relationships with a bunch of local athletes in our area, sports, a lot of tech companies. We became HR benefits for them because these young professionals, it's a waste of time, right? Like they want to be where they need to be. So for us, we offer valet, concierge pickup and drop off for their cars. We have a really nice, expensive looking waiting area. We make espresso drinks. It's like whatever we can save the time and it can be convenient for them to take care of their vehicles. This is what we do, and we will continue to improve that as we go. But to simplify the question was, we picked the avatar client and our demographics and then found that need.
You know, how can we showcase that in the best way? And that's with the higher end vehicles. You know, it takes definitely a special skill set and a very, I like to use the word finesse type technician to work on the high end European vehicles, the exotics. And that's where I came from, doing that stuff on the side. So there's so many of them around here, but not a lot of people have the ability to do an amazing job. You know, there's people that can service them. There's the dealerships that are here, but when they want to have that elevated experience, that's where we come in.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. And I love, you know, seeing just in the story you've told me, illustrating your partnership this way. You know, Michelle, you're very oriented on the business, like the larger business aspect of it, and Bernard, you're on, you know, the technical side, the what has to get done to bring in the money. So I love seeing that all come together. That's excellent. So what would you guys say is the biggest challenge that you've faced so far in your business? Was it, you know, focusing on this clientele, or was it something else entirely?
I would say hiring the right people for the right positions has been the biggest struggle since we opened up. I used to think it was like, oh, branding, brand awareness, art procedures, systems. But I think people, that's very, very hard. Like we just mentioned, I think it's industry-wide, there's a shortage in technicians, right? Then we're even worse because then we're specialized, right? I always say then we're a specialty shop, so it's even harder. And then to hold the master techs, that brings you down. So it's like, let's say it's like 100 out there. Specialty shop brings you down to like 50. And then now you want skilled, you're looking at like 5, you know? So at the beginning of our business, we were very fortunate to have the time and the capacity that B was able to kind of like raise, we like to say, and trained all of the technicians.
Kind of work side by side with them.
So we had a very high tenure until about like a year ago when we started really focusing on like what we were going to do and changing. Now we didn't have room to bring in more apprentices, just because it slows production down, right? So it was like focusing on bringing in those masters, and that to me was also it was one of the biggest struggles. It was a huge eye opener for me too, because my coach told me, he's gonna keep saying I keep mentioning this, but he hurt my feelings a little bit, because he told me, you have to be attractive enough to attract these individuals, and you're not there yet. So you got to make sure that you do what you need to do to become attractive. And I busted my butt for the past year to make sure that, we became well known, a lot of brand awareness in our community, so people would know. And now we put a job ad and people are like, oh, I've heard that Euro Clinic is really picky, and I heard that you guys do this. We were very heavily involved, right? We have relationships. I'm a big relationship person. We have relationships with our local Silicon Valley Chamber. I'm actually on the board this year. We have relationships with a lot of the tech companies. We have relationships with local sports, a lot of young professionals, even local shops. I'm in everybody's business. So a lot of that stuff was, we started making sure that they knew, hey, I'm not for everybody either. But then it kind of made them curious, like, hey, those people that work for them for a very long time, like, why? And then I made sure that I became very employee-centric. And that was one of the biggest struggles too, right? We had to make sure it's costly. I wanted to pay well. So if the dealers are paying $40 an hour, I'm paying $60. If the dealers are covering 50% of their benefits, I'm covering 100. If they are giving them chiropractor benefits to keep them wellness, I'm actually bringing somebody to the shop to do it. So a lot of it was that, right? That's my
How to be attractive, and you want the top talent like that to be excited. We want them to already get excited just to apply. When they're looking us up and they're looking at some of our websites, our social media posts, they can see what the shop looks like. They can see the waiting room. They can see how much time and effort we put into caring about the clients and the employees. So already off the bat, they're excited before they've even hit the door. And now when they come in here and they speak to us, we want them to get even more excited and say, wow, this is a really attractive place. I would love to work here.
But for example, we have a new gentleman that started last week. And one of my biggest expectations, and now the general manager sets, is you need to be picture ready every day, all day, right? We announced on Friday that the 49ers are coming to film because we're this year's make sponsors for high school female sports. So they're just going to come and film commercials and look at the shop. And he was like, oh my God, but like, that's why you guys want us to look nice and stuff. I was like, it's not just that. It's the fact that we walk in, vendors walk in here, part deliveries, guys walk into here.
Clients are in the shop all the time.
UPS drivers, everybody, we have snacks, we have drinks. Even with our UPS drivers, for me, it's my home. You treat everybody like I would treat people in my home. You gotta look clean. My kids look clean. Fender covers, gloves, uniform.
Then their stall, even their area, we tell them, I want you to treat it like your mom's living room. So if you spill something, you leave it there and you're chugging it around and walking through this, would you do that at your mom's house? Of course not, because mama put the smack down. So I was like, keep your area nice, clean. And also if somebody's walking by, they're videotaping, last thing you want to see is dripping puddles and you're walking around making this. So it goes beyond just the image that you think that we see. It's everything in the details. And that's what makes the biggest difference.
One of my biggest goals with the staff was I didn't want to pretend to look clean. I wanted to be clean, right? And that was one of the biggest things, culture. That's what's culture for me. It's not the snacks, it's not the stuff that we provide for them. It's bringing in high performers that are self-sufficient, self-manageable, and that want to continue to invest in themselves. Like, that's the culture here, and that's what people know of us. You want to work for Michelle and Bernard, like Euro Clinic, they're very like, if you're trying to cruise, you can't work there, kind of thing. Like,
I use the analogy, and it pains me to say it, but the Yankees. I mean, the New York Yankees forever have been so picky on their appearance because they have their brand, their logo, their players on billboards, on cereal boxes, on commercials. They make sure everyone it's almost military. stereotype, the way that they're clean cut, they're shaved, they're professional, the way that their uniforms look. And I said, that's us. That's how we have to be. Use that as a great example. And we've had some employees that have come through here, and Michelle and I have talked, and we realized they're a great person, but we think they're in the wrong seat. So we've actually moved employees from one department to another one to see if they would thrive better in a different environment, in a different role. And it's interesting how you're able to do that at different times.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I really appreciate you guys, really delving into your processes there and just your outlook on how your business is. And I love that you know who you are. So that's excellent. All right. I do want to step back a little bit for a minute here and look at kind of a bigger picture question. So I want to know from each of you. And Bernard, we can start with you. How would you sum up the current state of the automotive repair industry in one sentence?
I would say, in one word, tough. Right now, you've got a lot of technicians and even the technology that is starting to change drastically, going into like the electronic world, the e-machines, and technicians are having to learn all new skill sets. Everything is already computerized as it is, and now you're taking out one major component like the gasoline or diesel engine. With everything going full electric, a lot of things are changing. There's a major shift right now. So between that and then the technicians themselves having to adapt, you've got some of the I'll call them old timers that are used to a certain thing, and they're having to learn. It's like day difference. All these different skills and equipment and technology. And I think that can get pretty tough at times.
Absolutely. All right. So Michelle, same question to you. How would you sum up the current state of the automotive repair industry in one sentence?
It's a good time, I think, to be in the automotive industry. I'm looking at this time right now, like we did COVID. There's a lot of things happening. That there's a lot of opportunity for even repair shops or parts people to be more innovative in how we're going to do stuff. And that's going to create a lot of change.
Yeah, like who can get on board with it and who's going to unfortunately fall off.
Absolutely. All right. So we've talked a little bit about, the issue with finding technicians or the fact that technology is changing so rapidly here. Overall, what would you guys say the industry then is doing right, and what could it be doing better perhaps in response to some of these problems, or any other ones you can think of?
Ooh, I love this question. Can I go first? Of course. To our industry specifically, like aftermarket, I think we should do a better job overall in educating the new generation, like the new workforce coming in, that this isn't just a blue collar type of like industry. Like there is money to be made here. And I think we just have to be more proactive on that. Because that's why they're so hard to find workforce, right? I have 5 of my employees are 6-figure employees, and people don't know that, right? And then it is one of those trade skills as a technician that will be lost because people don't want to, parents don't want to encourage their kids to like be a technician, but even be at that time and back in the days, you were over a 6-figure employee, great benefits, and it is I consider them now, this industry, we do reverse engineering. We fix problems that engineers, I guess, design, right? Even parts people, I look at all my part corporate friends, like they have to come up with additional options, right? And that's crazy. Like you need that is skillful. So I think that we should do a better job overall in making sure that we create brand awareness around our industry, that it's not just a blue collar. There is money to be made here.
Yeah, there's I think you nailed it. It's not just a blue collar job anymore. We're doing the same type of tech type work that some of the big corporations are down the street that are the biggest in the industry. There's not a whole lot of difference of what we're doing as far as our coding, our programming. Each technician has to have a laptop, and the technology that are in the cars nowadays is more advanced than what was on the space shuttle. So when you start thinking about that, you're thinking about like, okay, we've got a lot going on here. And one of the struggles that we're already seeing that we're going to have a big struggle with possibly soon is the lack of information from manufacturers. And that's where it makes it difficult for certain technicians to do their task when manufacturers are hoarding information like that. As far as like how we can better ourselves is Michael Jordan would stay after practice and shoot an extra 100 free throws. So you have to get better on your own. So when I was a technician and I knew stuff was coming out, I was constantly at night laying in bed reading tech bulletins, looking at updates. And I had a wife, her name is Michelle, sit next to me. She's like, "What are you doing?" But I know at some point this week or next month or something, I'm going to get something that's going to trigger. I remember reading about that. So now I'm familiar with the system. I'm familiar with how it operates. So, these
continuous learning.
It always is. I mean, if there's technicians that are coming up, be expected and want to, continue and always learn. And if there's, free seminars, if there's webinars, jump on it, because you're always going to get some nuggets out of that. And it's just going to make you even better.
Yeah. And it sounds like, education overall, whether it's specific technical focused or just even business oriented, is really important to you guys. I did finally want to circle back to the fact that, you've talked about how you are involved with, like local chambers of commerce and even associations within the industry as a whole. Can you tell me a bit more about your roles there and what your focus is? What do you want to change in the industry, and how are you trying to achieve that?
Yeah, so we're members of the Silicon Valley Chamber of Commerce. I actually sit on the board. This is my first year. I sit on the board, and I'm the only auto repair shop actually that's ever been on the board. And it's super cool because I'm the only Silicon Valley native, which was super awesome for me. And it's so important. I think one of my biggest goals being on the board is to continue to invest in the workforce in Silicon Valley. It is very expensive, and it's hurting a lot of the small businesses, because I think a lot of the Bay Area right now is very focused in tech, very focused in AI, which is cool. But then we also have to see how that is affecting, space, rent, livelihood for everybody else in that area. So that's kind of like my intention. That's like my gooey stuff that makes me feel good about my community. We are involved with the 49ers Cal High Sports. I am a Silicon Valley native. I played sports. I played basketball and track. So this is my opportunity to give back to that space. And hopefully we'll see some return on investment with brand awareness. I also sit a member of Women in Auto Care. This was my first year on the board, and I am my responsibilities there. I'm on the conference committee, so for me, it's growing the shop owner attendance for the conference is what is very passionate for me, just because a lot of the shop owners see that to be very corporate, and for me, it's like, well, yes, there's a lot of corporate girlies that go, all the parts vendors, software vendors, but just like I like to hear from my clients, this is an opportunity for them to network with us. I mean, we are their client, right? So why wouldn't you want to attend? And on top of that, I think is geared around a lot of leadership skills. And I attended 7 years ago by myself, and it was scary. And it was such a great welcoming community. I think B is now part of Women in Auto Care, and he's an ally. And I'm like, get your whole friends. But so it's I think for us now, this point in our career with the shop, I hired a general manager last year. He's been with us 1.5 years now to run day-to-day operations, which now gives us the opportunity to do that. Go into our communities, go and be part of our industry. We're attending Leadership Days next month in September, and we're marching with Auto Care Association to Congress, and kind kind of like protestifying for the Repair Act. So that's super exciting, right? To be able to be a part of what drives our industry, even at small increments. I think it's great. We're on a committee too. I don't know if you want.
Yeah, I'm with the Car Care Professional Network. It's a group of shop owners nationwide. I sit on the council with that, and it's a lot of discussion on exactly this, the changes in the automotive industry, how we can benefit from it. And it's really cool. And I tell Michelle this often, I was just someone that worked on cars, but now looking back at last 10 years, 5 years now, the last year, how much it's growing outside of just that realm, like what we're doing for the community. I played sports again. I actually like having at least one apprentice in the shop when I'm available. I like trying to give back and grow someone, show them like some cool tricks, and if it's something that they're passionate about and they're hungry about it, I'll pour into them, and that I still get my gooey out of. I had a lot of older guys helping me out when I was coming up. So it's just my chance to give back too.
That's fantastic. I love to hear it. And so, we've talked a bit, especially you, Bernard, about, new technology in the cars and, in the space. How have you guys integrated new technology into your business?
I've integrated AI a lot in order to keep us very intentional. Yes. B was a little bit against it, and I had to need one of the connections that I made that's actually designing an AI product for repair shops. And I said, you got to meet this guy. B is a big believer of this is a hands-on thing. I was like, our industry where we make money is based on efficiency. How quick can we get information? And we started using ChatGPT more to ask it questions. Like, let's say a technician's stuck on something, and be very direct, right? I have a 2023 Porsche Macan. It had an oil leak. I did this. Now I'm having this issue. What am I missing? And just the way it just kind of narrows things down for you. It doesn't tell you how to fix it. You still have to fix it, but it's a quick way to get you out of tunnel vision if you're getting stuck on something. So when I showed Bernard that, he was like, whoa, okay, this is cool. I was like, it's how you ask it to do stuff, right? And
Remember Mr. Stubborn at first. Or was like, not even, but this, she was like, well, look, I'm not even a tech, and I was playing around with this. Look what I came up with. I love it as a tool, not as a replacement.
Well, that was my sell to you, right? This is not going to replace a technician or replace a service advisor or replace, because people still crave connection, right? In the business that we run, we do business for people with people. So it's very in the face with the client. But if you can get information faster, then why not, right? And you have to train it. So for me, technology it's either you get with it or you're gonna left behind, right? I always see it like that. And which is funny because I'm the least techie person and we're in the tech capital of the world.
So on that note, what does the future of the industry look like to you guys?
I think it's going to continue to grow. I actually think that dealers need to watch out. I think that our industry, the way we used to see it, the way I even saw it, I haven't been in the industry as long as Bernard, right? Or a lot of my friends have been in the industry 20 years plus. I've been in it, 14 years, if I could say.
So then, you've seen a lot come and go.
And even when I started, I always saw the dealerships were our biggest competition. And I think that we're becoming their biggest competition. And I think it's because our mindset is endless opportunities, right? We have so much more that we can do and more flexibility. And we have that special relationship with our customers, with our clients, with our vendors that they don't have. So I honestly think that even if, let's say they do go all electric, which I'm a little 50-50 on that, there's still so much more that we could do, right? And again, I think this industry has thrived in innovation. Anything that you throw at us, we have been able to grow from it and come out even better products, better way of doing stuff, better systems, better processes. I hired the general manager I hired used to run Highline dealers in my area. He was a dealer guy his whole entire life. First thing I did before I offer a job is send him to an aftermarket conference. I told B, I'm going to give him my place. We're going to send him to an aftermarket conference. He's going to be wowed. And then we're just kind of fish him in, we're going to hook him and then we're going to fish him in. And yeah, he fell in love with the industry. You know why?
Hell that bait.
He fell in love. He came back. He was pumped. He was excited. He's like, I never knew this was it. Again, we need to do a better job at branding ourselves. He's like, I'm thinking the aftermarket world's like Jiffy Lubes and like Dia's like Midas. And I'm like, no, it's like actual like entrepreneurs that decided to buy this. It's like a whole business, and we have employees and we have systems and we have processes, we have business friends, we have vendors, like all this stuff, right? So again, I think
the way that it's titled also changes your mindset. If you consider yourself an independent or an aftermarket shop, or we like to say we're a dealership alternative. So we like to say that we scale higher than even the dealership, because they're probably having a meeting right now talking about us saying, well, how can we do better than them? Their labor rate's higher than we're higher than some dealers. They're wondering how can they do a 5-year unlimited mile warranty? Why are they able to offer other cost-effective parts and still maintain a warranty? How can they provide lattes and cappuccino every morning for their customers? It's little things like that I think is really going to start setting facilities like that apart from others.
I think the industry itself is going to be fantastic even in the next 5 years.
Excellent. Yeah. So now to narrow the focus a bit more, what do you feel your professional legacy will look like? Or what do you want it to look like?
I want to become multi-shop. That's one of my biggest goals. And
we'd like to have everything in place, all of our processes documented, our procedures lined out, almost like taking a picture of our front waiting area, the picture of our shop, and just saying, this is going to be store number 2. Mimic it. It's going to be a mirror image. Everything's going to be the same. So if we have clients that move to the North Bay and they find a Euro clinic up there and they walk inside, they're like, wait a minute, that's the same check-in counter. That's those same plants. It's very familiar. I think if you nail it and you get it right the first time, duplicate that, and sky's the limit.
Yeah, just like that franchise mentality. When you find it, you keep it going. Door after door.
Yeah, my sisters always tell me that we keep moving and we keep growing, and she tells me, when is it going to be enough? But to me, I think one of the things I tell her, and maybe this could be, I really don't know what I would want my legacy to be, but for me, it's like, we just paid over $1 million in payroll wages last year, right? That's us contributing to our community. These are people that could live, buy a home, get married, have kids, buy a car, from us being able to provide those wages, right? And I tell my family, if I could do that in different other cities, like why not? And then on top of that, also provide great service to our consumers. So not only are we bringing great service and experience to drivers, our consumers, but we're also able to provide a place for somebody to start a career, or even if they don't want to, just a good experience that they could go and leave and move on and be a winner somewhere else, but learn something with us. I think that's what I would love my legacy to be, to say, one day I worked for her and I learned this, right? That's my goal for any team member. I always say, every time I hire somebody now that I don't run day-to-day operations, they get a little letter from me on my commitment to them. And it's not like I expect everybody to work here for 10 plus years, but my goal is that if you ever leave here, I want you to leave with something, learn something, some sort of skill, whether it's personal or professional.
Yeah, I think if we look 10 years from now, 20, 30 years from now, you look back, I think the biggest thing I would want anyone to say, whether it be employees or clients, is, man, they really cared. They went out of their way to make sure that everything was above and beyond, and they were always looking to improve.
It takes two to make a thing go right, and it takes two to make it out of sight. Michelle and Bernard Tansey each have their own focus on Euro Clinic. She handles the business side and he handles the technical side. Together, they've focused on creating a unique brand and educating both local techs as well as the industry. It's their focus on brand awareness and advocacy for the automotive aftermarket that make them vehicle care rock stars.